let's put the loader down on the ground and the 3-point implement as well, just for safety. Okay, let's go see what's going on here today. All right, well, welcome back, folks. What we're up against today, aside from staring at this heaping pile of slab wood, I have a family member who wants this stuff. That's why I've been holding off cutting it. You may have seen my dad out here not all that long ago. He was helping me with a bit of cutting, and well, we filled the rack and then we threw the rest on the ground in a nice pile there. That's so that when that family member, not my dad, comes by, I think they're bringing a trailer, and then we'll get in there with the forks, load them right up, and I'll be happy to have it on its way. If I can have someone make use of this, I'll be happy to do so. And well, I think this person's gonna have an endless supply of that, because I got a lot of cutting planned, and I think they're trying to put some siding up on their chicken coop, so that'll be what that'll be used for. Anyways, right here at the sawmill, and if you haven't been around before, you might not have ever seen the sawmill outside of the sheds there. I do bring it out from time to time, and the reason it's out right now is I want to get in that shed and clean up a little bit. If we have a look back here, you're going to see the amount of sawdust that piles up in short order. And so I'm going to get in there now that the sawmill's out, and I can scoop that stuff out of there. That same family member who's taking the slab wood, they might be taking sawdust. I don't know if they want that for the chicken coop or not. I don't know a ton about chickens. Aside from the fact that they probably need a little bit of bedding in some places. Maybe it'll soak up some of the feces and all that, so maybe they'll take it with them. But we got the sawmill out here today. You may notice these wooden poles here. These things are, if we get in nice and close, they're essentially wooden blocks. They're 2x2s with a little piece on the bottom, and they've got 1-inch increments marked on them. And that's going to allow me to level this sawmill. Now, the sawmill does travel periodically around the site here, around my land. But for the most part, it stays here. But every time you move it, you got to re-level it before you get underway. That's what I'm going to show you what I do today. I used to use a 6-foot level, and that does work well, and I'll break it out here in a minute. The 6-foot level can give you level that way, and you can get level this way. But I've also made my way to using a level laser, or laser level. That thing works even easier, and so that's what we'll do today. Anyways, welcome back. Here we go. The beautiful thing this morning. Okay, I've got my 6-foot level here, DeWalt level. I've used this for a long time. Works really well for me. There's more expensive levels out there, but this one seems to be middle of the road. Longer the level you have, the better, I found in this case. Sometimes I'll use a 4-foot and a 6-foot level. 4-foot for side to side, 6-foot for length. But as I said, if you have a longer than a 6-foot level, all the better. What I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to come up here to the front, and right where the 2 jacks are, I'm going to level side to side. At the back, I'm going to do the same with those other 2 jacks, side to side. The middle jacks, I'm going to leave them so they're not touching the ground at this point. I'm not too concerned about them yet. I'm going to get the front and the back situated so that it's level side to side, it's level lengthwise. Once I'm in that ballpark, then I'll have those 2 middle jacks tightened up so they touch the ground. But at this point, I don't want them to interfere with the other jacks. All right, so if you have a look there, you can obviously tell that this side has to come up. And so you can raise it up just a little bit to give you an indicator. And so that's pretty much on the money there. And so we've got to come up, give or take 3/4 of an inch there. So at this point, I'm going to have a look at what's easiest for me. And because the wheels are touching there, I'm probably only going to be able to lift that side up. Even if I lower that jack there, that wheel's probably going to hinder it at the back once we get there. So in my case, I'm going to raise things up here. All right, and you can see we're pretty close there. You watch that bubble. And at this point, depending how high I get, I might go back. Oh, I went too far there. I might go back and lower the leg on the other side. That's real close. I'd call that pretty well good. Oh. Okay, so that's good there. And then we're going to go to the back. And right here, right over top the other jacks, I'm going to do the exact same thing. And let's just see where we're at here. So in this case, that side's too high. And so likely what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise this one up here. Now let's get the handle. And I'll actually just move it over here. Give myself a little bit of room. And just make sure that jack's touching the ground before you get carried away here. See how that's not touching the ground? So if I started to raise that, this one would have maybe seesawed a bit. So let's just make sure it's touching the ground here nice and firm. And we'll come to the other side. Okay, and so in this case, just to see how far we have to go, raise it up till the bubble's in the middle. So you're probably at an inch right there. So we'll raise this one up. You watch that bubble there. There it is. Okay, so side to side we're level. The next thing I do, once we're level, let's come back up, double check this one. This one is still good. And so we'll go to the middle of the sawmill. And you can see where we're at this point. So at this point, I raise it up till its level. You can see my finger there, you know, 3/4 of an inch. If you were to extend that, probably an inch by time, maybe 1.25 by time you get to the end bunk. And so one of the reasons I leveled it side to side first is I now can compare cranks, if that makes sense. If I need to raise this end up, I'll start on this side. I'll get like 5 cranks in, and then I'll go to the other side and count 5 cranks. Presumably, if I crank the same number, it's going to raise it by the same amount. Whereas if it's not level side to side, then counting 5 here and counting 5 there really won't make a difference, because side to side it won't be level. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then I'll repeat the process over here. 1, oh, sort of a 1.5 there. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. If you look down there, we're pretty close. And we'll just double check how close we are side to side. It should have remained the same, which it did. Okay. Back we go. We need a little bit more here. I'm also making sure I don't have debris under the level. And so we're going to probably do 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're real close there. And one thing I'll mention here, sometimes, and I don't do it all the time, but sometimes I actually leave a bit of a slope on it. So as the sawmill is traveling through the wood, it's just ever so slightly wanting to go forward. It's not going to roll on its own, but it does want to move forward because it's not quite level. It's downhill just a little bit. Real close. 3 more. 1, 2, 3. And to the other side real quick. 3. 1, 2, 3. And if we have a look at that, you know, the carpenter in me says I want it to be exactly in between. In this case, that would mean probably 2 more. 1, 2. 1, 2. Okay. And I'd say that's as good as we're getting right there. So that is how you can level a sawmill like this on a trailer, side to side, length to length, with a 6-foot level. Now that takes a little bit of time, hence why I also use these little wood upright pieces, and I use a laser. Let's check out what that looks like. So everything's level at this point. With my 6-foot level, I could leave it at this and just continue on my way sawing, but I do have another method that I often use for leveling the sawmill. That's a laser level. Now before I get there, some of you may notice that down here the middle jacks are not touching the ground. I do that on purpose. I get everything nice and level, and then I take the middle jacks and I have them come down and touch the ground firmly for that middle support. but I don't put them down on the ground because they're just 2 more jacks to have to adjust while I'm doing the leveling process. Here's the laser level I was talking about. And so this model here, it's got 3 axes to it, the X, Y, and the Z axis. Now this also allows for a level line, no matter what the direction of this thing is. And that's what makes it useful in this application. I just put it on the middle bunk there, as you can see. And then I put these wooden uprights positioned sort of at 4 corners, left, right, end to end. And I just make sure when I'm positioning them, they're sitting on clean bunks. There's no debris underneath of it. That way I can get a relatively accurate measurement. We'll turn this thing on. And once it's on, as I said, there's 3 axes of laser. So I'm going to go through with the mode and we'll just change it so that it's only on the horizontal there. And so you can see a line broadcast here, and you can see a line broadcast here. And it becomes a little difficult when it's bright out to see it down here, but it is very slightly projecting a line right there, probably at about 3 1/4. I could probably put some more pencil lines in between 3 and 4 to make it more accurate, but we'll say 3 1/4 there. And we do expect the same measurement down here. And although it's hard to see, it's right about where my finger is. Whoops, so that would be 3 1/4 as well. And so that just verifies that I did get the Sawmill level with the 6-foot level. These numbers, as I said, should be the same as well. Now, what I do in this case with that level, assuming the Sawmill was not level, because we didn't have a 6-foot level beforehand, what I do is I place everything as you see it, and then I just look at the numbers. And let's say down here, the laser line's on 4, and down there, the laser line's on 3. So what that would suggest to me is that this end must be lower than the other end. And if this end's lower than the other end, take the 1 inch difference, cut it in half. This end, you can bring up a 1/2 inch. This end, you can drop down a 1/2 inch. Or you could bring this up the whole inch. That's more or less the thought process that I have when I've got the laser line. Now, oftentimes what I'll do, just like I did before, is I'll try to level side to side first and foremost. So I'll look at these 2 numbers. These are the same right now, so it's level. But assuming this number was like, I don't know, let's assume it was at 5. And this other number here is at 3 1/2. That would indicate to me, if you can imagine, there's 5 again. That would indicate to me that this side must have to come up to get it closer to 3 1/2. Alternatively, this could come down. So that's sort of the thought process. A little bit more figuring potentially than reading the bubble off a laser, but it is quite a bit faster in some circumstances. Obviously, if you got a level handy and you're good at it, then maybe that's the faster option. If you're looking for an alternative because you find it slow, well, the laser could be the ticket for you. Anyways, those are my methods for leveling my Sawmill. Let's be honest out here. We're working with rough lumber. I don't have to be dead on. I'm not building a house here. And so assuming we are relatively close to level, that's good enough for me. The more important thing for me, aside from being level, is being flat. If my bunks are not in line with each other from top to top to top, that is way more important to me than having a slight slope, left to right, downhill, uphill. Just keep that in mind when you're getting your Sawmill into place. But I think that discussion about flattening the Sawmill will be for another day. In my experience with this model, as well as the model I had before this, the 2017 HM130, I didn't have any issues where I had to go back and re-flatten things. I'm sure there are people out there who might have to make minor adjustments, but in my experience, those adjustments typically happen when you're assembling. You get everything flat from the start, you torque everything down, assuming you're not throwing logs at it from 10 feet up. You're probably going to be stuck on sawing, less adjusting. So that's going to do it for me here today. I think I'll grab the sludgeroo, throw a log or 2 up there, and get down to cutting. Be sure, if you haven't done so already, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and also check out my content on TikTok and Instagram, as well as Facebook. I'm branching out here a little bit. I hope you join me on those platforms. As always, take care, be well, do some cutting, and I'll see you next time.